Hey guys, it's just gonna be a kind of chill sit down video. Um, just talking about me as a self diagnosed autistic person, why that's valid, and why I may still be seeking a formal diagnosis eventually. If you hear this in the background, I don't know how much noise it's making. I am just I have a fidget in my hand, but I will try to keep it quiet. Um, so I first realized oh, I actually genuinely might be autistic, was when I was just 22, just turning 23, so about a year ago now. When I started really doing intense research into it, looking at the DSM 5, um, going to one of my favorite resources, Embrace Autism, um, and doing their quizzes and stuff. And then I got a screening done and all that stuff. But the process really began when I was in probably grade 9 or 10. Uh, and I first was introduced to autism, and that was when autism was defined to me and to some professionals still. They still see it this way, but essentially, cis man that's nonverbal, like very I I don't want to use functioning labels because they're not good, because it's not that I'm high functioning. I'm very low functioning some days and high functioning other days. So functioning labels don't really work. But he was the one autistic person I knew was very obviously autistic. So his masking skills were significantly less than mine. So he came off as more socially awkward and all that stuff. Um, so it was very he was different than us, and that was like a major thing. Um, that was my first exposure to autism, and then I was able to learn more about it in college, and that's when I realized that hey, I have a lot in common with an autistic person. Um, I have similar traits, but not all of them. Like I don't really have sensory issues. I don't really have this and this things that were all lies because I didn't really understand what they felt like because I'm not an autism trait. I forget the word for it, but it's not being able to describe your feelings. So unless someone puts it into a physical sensation for me, I can't look at a feeling and tell you that I'm feeling it. Um, so that was when I first was exposed to it. And then my best friend at the time, so this is a couple years later, she was like, I think I have a lot in common with an autistic person. And I was like, yeah, I have autistic tendencies as well. And together we looked into it a bit more and realized that, oh, we have a lot in common, a little too much in common with an autistic person. Um, and then through months of research and screenings and different quizzes and resources and watching different autistic YouTubers and following people on Instagram and stuff, I came to the realization that yeah, no, I fit the criteria, the DSM-5, the diagnostic criteria for autism, I fit it. And in January of this last year, this January, was when I was like, no, I realized and learned that self-diagnosis was valid, and that I could refer to myself as an autistic person, uh, without having a formal diagnosis. And that's when I started getting stim toys and fidgets like this, my sunflower lanyard, um, different accommodations, and started collecting things to help me um, experience the world better. And um, yeah, so, and then here I am today. Um, I'm the reason why self diagnosis is valid is because a formal diagnosis is not always accessible. So financially, they're very costly, and the hoops you have to go through, at least where I am, to get a formal diagnosis covered by um, our healthcare system is a lot, which I'm starting the process of. But I didn't want to wait till I had a formal diagnosis that might take years, um, before I started accommodating myself and getting into a community of people um, that are like me. And so, those reasons, it's not accessible, and the diagnostic criteria and a lot of the medical professionals that are diagnosing autism view it as something that only people assigned male at birth can have. And so, as a person who is assigned female at birth, um, it's not as easy to get a diagnosis because there's a lot of stigma around if people assigned female at birth can have autism, which is an outdated way to think, but some people still think that way. And they don't take into account masking ability, um, and different like little things that a lot of people who are assigned female at birth would have picked up to survive as an autistic person. Um, Things like forcing eye contact and like um, there's a very like stereotypical like interest in trains, which like I like trains as much as the next guy. It's not my special interest. I don't like collect trains, and they view that as almost like it's not an official criteria for diagnosis, but they treat it almost like that. Um, and there's lots of little things that normally, like assigned female at birth, people would have picked up to get by. That if you can do those things, that means you're not really autistic. Um, but yeah, so that's why um, self diagnosis is valid, and um, as well and not accessible. Um, and sometimes people who are officially diagnosed with autism are unable to do certain things. I think it depends on the country and stuff, but some people aren't able to adopt, different things like that. Um, so not everyone's going to want an official diagnosis, um, but might still want to be identified as an autistic person. Um, so yeah, but for me, I think a formal diagnosis would kind of help me prove to my family that I'm actually autistic and I'm not just like, this is the newest thing I feel like I have, like a hypochondriac, where like, no, like there's like evidence that I have this. Um, but yeah, so that is self diagnosis and why it's valid and why I'm still pursuing a formal diagnosis. But because of the hoops that I have to go through, it is going to be a long time before I'm able to get it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and see y'all next time.